Imagine standing in the heart of one of the fastest-growing cities in America. Around you, the air is thick with the sound of traffic, the hum of construction, and the energy of a metropolis on the rise. But right above your head, a massive glass giant is watching in total silence. It towers over the Atlanta skyline, a gleaming monument of blue steel and reflective windows that should be the beating heart of the city's business district. Instead, it is a hollow shell. This is a structure that cost nearly $2 billion to bring to life, a project designed to redefine luxury and corporate prestige. But today, it stands as a ghost. Not a single desk is occupied, not a single light stays on in the upper reaches after the sun goes down, and for the last 2 years, it has become the most expensive piece of for-sale property in the entire region. But here is the catch: nobody is buying. In fact, seasoned investors are looking at this building as if it were radioactive. The story of the Atlanta skyscraper that nobody can sell is more than just a real estate failure. It is a terrifying window into the future of our modern cities and the collapse of the way we used to think about work and money. To understand how a $1.8 billion investment becomes a liability that essentially sits abandoned in 2024, we have to look inside its empty halls and uncover the series of disastrous decisions that led to its downfall. This is a journey into the world of failing mega projects, where the bigger they are, the harder they fall. When the plans for this tower were first unveiled, it was supposed to be the jewel of the South. The design was revolutionary, featuring high-speed elevators, sustainable energy systems, and views that could see all the way to the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was pitched as a vertical city, a place where the world's most powerful tech companies and financial institutions would clamor for a spot. The developers were so confident that they spared no expense. They imported marble from Italy for the lobby, installed floor-to-ceiling glass that could withstand a hurricane, and built an amenity deck that looked like it belonged in a 5-star resort in Dubai. At the time, the Atlanta market was soaring. Companies were moving from the north to the Sun Belt in record numbers, and it seemed like there was no limit to how much office space the city could absorb. But then, the world changed. Just as the final beams were being bolted into place and the glass was being polished, the very nature of labor was transformed forever. The traditional office model didn't just stumble, it evaporated, and this massive project, which was built for a world of 9-to-5 desk jobs, suddenly found itself irrelevant before the ribbon-cutting ceremony could even take place. What makes this building particularly fascinating and heartbreaking for the investors is the sheer scale of the waste. When you walk into the lobby today, you aren't walking into a construction site. You are walking into a finished masterpiece. The air conditioning is humming to protect the expensive wood paneling from Georgia's humidity. The security systems are active, monitoring empty hallways. The lights in the lobby stay on 24 hours a day to give the appearance of life. It is an incredibly expensive charade. It costs millions of dollars every single month just to keep this building from deteriorating, despite the fact that it generated exactly $0 in rent last year. Imagine the pressure on the banks that funded this. They are holding on to a massive debt that grows every single day. They have tried everything to get this off their books. They have offered massive tax incentives. They have slashed the asking price by hundreds of millions. And they have even talked about converting the whole thing into residential apartments. But that is where the second part of the nightmare begins. You see, modern glass skyscrapers are designed very specifically for offices. They have massive floor plates, which means the distance from the windows to the center of the building is huge. If you try to turn that into apartments, you end up with middle rooms that have no windows, no natural light, and no ventilation. To fix that, you would have to essentially tear the building down to its spine and rebuild the plumbing and electrical systems from scratch. The cost of converting this $1.8 billion skyscraper into housing would likely cost another $1 billion. Suddenly, your bargain purchase becomes a multi-billion-dollar hole in the ground that may never turn a profit. This is the central dilemma that is haunting the Atlanta skyline. It is too big to fail, but too expensive to fix. It is a mega project caught in a permanent state of limbo. Investors call these zombie buildings. They are physically there, they look healthy from the outside, but they have no economic heart. They are the walking legacy of a pre-2020 mindset that believed humans would always want to work in giant glass boxes in the sky. But let's look closer at the why behind the Atlanta-specific market. Atlanta has always been a city of momentum. It is a city that loves to build. From the 1996 Olympics to the massive film industry growth, Atlanta's identity is tied to expansion. The developers of this tower banked on that momentum. They saw the growth of Midtown and downtown and thought that the demand would never end. However, they ignored a critical factor: transit and town-centric living. While people were flocking to Atlanta, they weren't necessarily flocking to sit in traffic for 2 hours to reach an office in a skyscraper. They wanted walkable neighborhoods and flexible schedules. The building was designed for a centralized world in an increasingly decentralized era. As you move through the empty floors of this skyscraper, you can almost feel the absence of the thousands of people who were supposed to be here. There are empty break rooms with modern coffee stations that have never brewed a single cup. There are conference rooms with state-of-the-art screens that have never shown a single presentation. It feels like a movie set for a world where humanity just disappeared. But the truth is more mundane. People just decided they didn't need to be there. The financial structure of this project is a spider web of complexity. There are international investment funds, local pension funds, and major national banks all tied to this one piece of glass. When a project like this fails to sell, it's not just one person losing money. It creates a ripple effect throughout the entire city's economy. If this building eventually sells for a massive loss, say 50 cents on the dollar, that becomes the new comparable price for every other building on the street. Suddenly, every skyscraper in Atlanta is worth half of what it was yesterday. This is why the owners are so desperate not to sell for a low price. They aren't just protecting their own investment. They are trying to prevent a total collapse of the local commercial real estate market. But how long can you hold your breath underwater? The owners have been waiting since 2022 for a return to the office that hasn't materialized in the way they hoped. While some companies have called workers back, many have realized they can save millions by simply not renting 10 floors of a luxury tower. The very prestige of having your company's name on top of a skyscraper has lost its luster. Now that money is being spent on software, remote infrastructure, and smaller, more local satellite offices. The headquarters is no longer a physical place. It's a cloud server. This shift has turned our glass giant into an ornament. It is a very beautiful, very expensive ornament that the city of Atlanta has to look at every day. And because it is so large, its failure is highly visible. You can't hide a 50-story mistake. It sits there, casting a literal shadow over the businesses that actually are thriving. Now let's talk about the physical decay that happens when a building this size stays empty. Even with the maintenance crews, a building needs breath. It needs water flowing through the pipes to prevent seals from drying out. It needs people moving through the air to prevent pockets of stagnant humidity. When a building stays empty, it begins to stiffen. The elevators, designed to move thousands of times a day, can have issues when they sit idle. The HVAC system, designed to balance the temperature of 5,000 people, struggles to run at 5% capacity. Irony of ironies. The building is so high-tech that it is actually harder to maintain while empty than an old brick warehouse would be. Is there hope for this mega project? Some suggest it could become a massive data center. After all, it has the power grid and the cooling capacity. But data centers don't need marble lobbies and floor-to-ceiling windows. They need heavy floors that can support the weight of thousands of servers. Weight that this office-centric tower might not be engineered to handle. Others suggest it could be a vertical school or a government hub. But the bureaucracy and the cost of the lease usually make those options impossible. The reality is that we are witnessing the first of many such failures. Atlanta's $1.8 billion ghost is just the most prominent example. Across the country, from San Francisco to New York, these glass monuments are facing a reckoning. The era of the ego skyscraper is coming to a close. For decades, developers built bigger and taller not because it was efficient, but because it was a symbol of power. Now that power has shifted. The power is in the hands of the individual worker who prefers their home office, and the corporate accountant who realizes that a billion-dollar tower is a liability, not an asset. When you look at the drone footage of this tower at night, it's particularly striking. You see the vibrant lights of the street, the glowing signs of restaurants and bars, and then as the camera tilts up, you see a dark void. Only the safety lights on the roof blink against the sky. It is a hole in the city's heart. And as 2024 progresses, the question remains, what do you do with a $2 billion mistake that is literally bolted to the ground? Some architects are calling for radical adaptive reuse. They suggest taking out entire sections of the glass and creating sky gardens to make the space more attractive for high-end residential use. But who pays for that? The banks have already lost enough. The city can't afford to subsidize a luxury skyscraper's makeover. The developers are often already out of the picture, having moved on to the next project or declared bankruptcy to protect their other assets. The most likely outcome is a slow, painful devaluation. The building will sit, perhaps for another 5 or 10 years as its price drops lower and lower. Eventually, it will reach a scrap price, a point where it is so cheap that a bold investor will take the risk to completely gut it and turn it into something we haven't even thought of yet. Maybe a vertical farm? Maybe a massive indoor recreation center. Whatever it becomes, it will never be the corporate powerhouse its creators envisioned. This project serves as a cautionary tale for any city obsessed with growth at all costs. It shows that without a clear, long-term understanding of how people actually live and work, even the most expensive project can become a failure. It's a reminder that buildings are more than just steel and glass. They are living parts of a community. If they don't serve the people, they eventually lose their soul. For those of us who find these failing megaprojects fascinating, the Atlanta skyscraper is a masterpiece of what not to do. It's a combination of bad timing, overambition, and a refusal to see the changing world. It stands as a silent witness to a transition period in human history, the moment we realized our largest buildings were no longer our most important tools. As you walk through the streets of Atlanta today, the tower remains a beautiful part of the skyline. If you didn't know the story, you would think it was a symbol of the city's success, but now you know the truth. You know about the empty marble floors, the echoing elevators, and the billions of dollars that are slowly evaporating into the Georgia air. It is a monument to a world that no longer exists, a $1.8 billion reminder that in the world of megaprojects, the sky isn't always the limit. Sometimes, it's the beginning of the fall. The story of this building isn't over yet, but its chapter as a premier office destination has certainly closed. As the sun sets over Atlanta, the reflection on its blue glass is still breathtaking. It's just a shame there's no one inside to see it. The shadow it casts grows longer each day, not just on the pavement, but on the future of every developer who thinks they can build their way into the past. What happens next? Will it be stripped for parts? Will it become a vertical park? Or will it stay exactly as it is, a frozen moment in time from 2022, a museum of an era when we thought the office was forever? Only time will tell. But for now, the most expensive skyscraper in Atlanta remains a haunting, beautiful, and incredibly expensive ghost. It is a testament to the fact that money can build anything, but it can't force people to use it. In the end, a building is only as strong as the people who occupy it, and without them it's just a very tall, very expensive pile of glass and broken dreams. The banks will keep negotiating, the city will keep offering deals, and the maintenance crews will keep polishing the marble for guests who never arrive. It is a strange, quiet end for a project that was supposed to change the world. But in a way, it did change the world, by showing us exactly what we don't want our cities to become. A city of ghosts is no city at all. As we look to the future of urban design, we have to hope that we prioritize people over prestige and function over form. Because if we don't, we might find ourselves with more $2 billion shadows hanging over our lives. Keep an eye on that skyline. The next time you see a new tower rising, ask yourself, who is it for? And will it still be full in 10 years? Because as Atlanta has shown us, the answer isn't always as solid as the steel beams suggest. The future is flexible. The future is remote. And the future is definitely not inside an empty $1.8 billion skyscraper that nobody can sell. It is a fascinating time to be watching the evolution of our built environment. We are seeing the decentralization of the American dream happening in real time. The focus is shifting from where do I work to how do I want to live. And in that shift, the skyscraper is losing its throne. This failure in Atlanta is just the tip of the iceberg. Under the surface, there are hundreds of millions of square feet of office space that are facing the same fate. We are entering a decade of the great repurposing, and the challenges will be as massive as the buildings themselves. Ultimately, the story of the Atlanta Tower is a human story. It's about the people who dreamed it, the people who lost their fortunes on it, and the people who now walk past it every day, perhaps wondering why such a beautiful thing has to stay so empty. It's a mystery in plain sight, a failure on a massive scale, and a symbol of a world in flux. So next time you're in downtown Atlanta, take a moment to look up. Find that gleaming blue spire, and remember the story of the $1.8 billion that bought a whole lot of nothing. It's a reminder to all of us that the most valuable thing in any building isn't the Italian marble or the high-speed elevators. It's the life that happens inside it. Without that life, even the tallest tower is just a monument to a mistake. And as we continue to track these failing megaprojects around the world, we see a pattern emerging. It's not just Atlanta. It's London. It's Hong Kong. It's Chicago. The world is reevaluating its relationship with the skyscraper. And while some will find a way to survive, many will become the zombies of the 21st century. It's a fascinating, unfolding drama that touches on economics, sociology, and engineering. The Atlanta Ghost Tower will likely stay empty for many more months, maybe even years. The lights will stay on, the air will stay cool, and the marble will stay polished. It will wait for a buyer that hasn't arrived, for a company that hasn't been born, or for an idea that hasn't been thought of yet. Until then, it is a part of the city but not a part of its life. A beautiful glass-enclosed void in the middle of a bustling world. Thank you for exploring this empty giant with me. It's a story that needs to be told, not just because of the money involved, but because of what it says about our changing society. We are at a crossroads, and the skyscrapers of our past are no longer the landmarks of our future. As we look at the ruins of these modern megaprojects, we can start to see the shape of what comes next. And if history is any guide, it will be something more human, more flexible, and hopefully, more successful than the $1.8 billion tower that nobody can sell.